Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to be the person everyone expects you to be?
What if the thing that's making you unhappy isn't failure, but the constant pressure to be perfect?
Brené discovered that the people who live with the most joy, connection, and peace aren't the ones who have it all together. They're the ones who stop pretending they do.
Yep. Today we're exploring the gifts of imperfection
and how embracing who you truly are can completely change your life.
Welcome to the Life Architect Podcast.
Have you ever noticed that your brain acts like this ruthless cosmic accountant?
Oh, absolutely. Keeping track of everything.
Right, exactly. Like on the left side of the ledger, you are meticulously recording every flaw, every awkward comment you made at a party, every insecurity you harbor. And then, on the right side, you are frantically trying to balance those accounts with achievements.
Yeah, the classic hustle.
You tell yourself, well, if I can just get that promotion, or if I can just lose 20 pounds, or maybe rewrite this email to my boss 5 times so I sound smart but not aggressive, then the accounts will settle. Then I will finally be enough.
And it is just an incredibly exhausting way to live. But it's so common. We are constantly auditing our own existence. We treat our value like a daily stock price that fluctuates based on, how productive we were before noon.
Exactly. So today we're exploring the profound and honestly often challenging relationship that we have with ourselves. We want to look at that internal soundtrack of never enough and that intense pressure so many of us feel to constantly improve.
Yeah, the need to earn our place in the world.
Right. And this whole discussion is rooted in deep qualitative research into shame, vulnerability, and what it means to live wholeheartedly. And it's research that completely flips our conventional ideas of perfectionism and success on their head.
It really does. And there is a brilliant intellectual tension in this material. The core question we keep coming back to is this: does true self-acceptance require us to completely let go of the idea that our actions and achievements contribute to our worth? Or is our self-worth actually cultivated, actively built, and realized through our behaviors, accountability, and courageous engagement?
Well, for me, the research points clearly to the idea that self-worth has to be an absolute, unconditional baseline. It's an unearned birthright. I'll be arguing that you have worth simply because you exist, and that the drive to earn it through perfectionism is just a destructive shield hiding shame.
And while I love the philosophical ideal of inherent worth, realistically, human beings don't build identity in a vacuum. I'll be arguing that our relationship with ourselves is inextricably forged through action, healthy striving, and accountability.
I see why you think that, but before we can even talk about building worthiness, we have to look at the biggest barrier in our way, which is this deeply ingrained belief that worthiness is conditional.
Right, the checklist.
Exactly. The material brilliantly calls this the hustle for worthiness. We walk around with this invisible checklist of prerequisites, like I'll be worthy when I get my kids into that prestigious school, or when my house looks like a magazine cover. And the ultimate weapon we use in this hustle is perfectionism.
Right, and we should clarify what perfectionism actually is, because people, they often confuse it with just wanting to be excellent.
Yes, they totally do. But perfectionism isn't about healthy growth at all. It has nothing to do with genuine self-improvement. The research defines perfectionism as a 20-ton shield that we lug around. We hope it will protect us from the agonizing pain of blame, judgment, and shame.
I can perfectly picture that weight. It's heavy.
It's crushing. And the reason we pick up that shield in the first place is fascinating. Our brains are hardwired for social connection. Historically, if you were cast out of the tribe, you died. So our nervous systems literally code social judgment as a physical threat.
Oh, wow. A physical threat.
Right. So when we are being perfectionists, we are putting up this 20-ton shield to deflect those threats. But the tragedy is, while the shield might deflect judgment, it also completely blocks out connection. True belonging and self-acceptance can only begin when we set that massive shield down.
I completely agree that perfectionism is a toxic trap. Lugging around a 20-ton shield is just a guaranteed path to burnout. But here's where I push back. Separating our self-worth entirely from our actions ignores the reality of human psychology.
How so?
Well, to understand this, we really need to look at the crucial distinction the research makes between between shame and guilt, because they sound similar, but they operate completely differently.
That vital distinction, yeah.
Shame is the paralyzing global belief that I am bad. It focuses entirely on the self. Guilt, however, is the realization that I did something bad. It focuses on behavior. And here's the thing about guilt, it is highly adaptive.
You mean it serves a psychological purpose?
Exactly. Guilt drives us to apologize, to make amends, to change our behavior. It acts as an internal compass that aligns our actions with our core values. If I snap at a friend because I'm stressed, the discomfort I feel isn't something I should just wave away.
Right. You can't just ignore it.
No, you can't just declare, well, I am inherently worthy. That discomfort is guilt, and it prompts me to pick up the phone, own my mistake, and repair the relationship. My position is that you cannot simply sit in an empty room, declare yourself worthy, and be done with it.
But isn't that just basic accountability?
It is, but it proves that you have to actively practice courage. Cultivating a resilient spirit requires the friction of the real world. We have to hold ourselves accountable and strive to be better without tearing our character down. Our worth is realized through how we choose to show up.
I hear you, but let's look at why people are so exhausted by the pressure to show up perfectly. We really have to dissect the underlying emotional engine driving the behavior.
Okay, fair.
Like, why are they trying so hard? Is it genuine ambition or is it pure fear? Because the research points overwhelmingly to fear. Perfectionism is inherently externally focused.
Right, it's about the audience.
Exactly. The perfectionist isn't looking in the mirror asking, how can I grow? They are looking out the window asking, what will people think?
And I mean, society certainly hands us a script for what we're supposed to think about.
Oh, absolutely. Look at how shame is organized by gender. For women, the cultural mandate is often this impossible web of contradictions. You know, be nice, be thin, be modest, but also be wildly successful and do it all effortlessly. Don't ever let them see you sweat.
Yeah, the effortless part is the real trap.
And for men, the mandate is incredibly rigid and singular. Do not ever, under any circumstances, be perceived as weak. Show emotional control, pursue status, win at all costs. When you are operating under those impossible cultural straitjackets, your drive isn't ambition. It is a desperate attempt to avoid the pain of falling short.
I come at it from a different way. I don't deny the existence of those toxic cultural mandates at all. But we have to make room for the concept of healthy striving. Not all forward momentum is a trauma response, you know?
Sure, but it often is.
But healthy striving is internally driven. It is the authentic expression of someone's gifts. When a musician stays up until 3 a.m. perfecting a chord progression, or a scientist runs a demanding experiment for the 100th time, or even if you just spend your weekend tending to a beautiful garden.
But they could still be doing that for external validation.
Sometimes yes, but you are not necessarily running from shame. You are asking, how can I offer my best to the world? What am I capable of?
But how do you tell the difference from the outside?
You feel it on the inside. Pushing oneself can be a profound expression of self-love and purpose. If we demonize all striving as a hustle for worthiness, we strip human beings of profound joy. We lose the deep flow state and the meaning that comes from mastering a skill.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. It goes back to that emotional engine. If we use the metaphor of the 20-ton shield again.
Okay, let's hear it.
If your so-called healthy striving to keep a pristine, perfectly organized home is actually driven by the underlying anxiety that unexpected guests might drop by and judge you, you aren't striving, you're hiding.
Right, you're just managing their perception of you.
Toll is entirely different. One leaves you satisfied because you enjoy a clean space.
And the other?
The other leaves you chronically anxious and exhausted because you are trying to manage the unmanageable, what other people think of you. The ledger can never be balanced if other people are holding the pen.
Okay, the mechanism to escape that anxiety isn't just a cognitive realization of inherent worth. You can't just think your way out of it. It requires the active behavior of stepping into the arena anyway.
You mean vulnerability?
Yes. If perfectionism is the shield, vulnerability is the brave act of dropping it. and dropping it is a verb. It is a behavioral choice to expose oneself to emotional risk, to uncertainty.
And dropping that shield is exactly what separates fitting in from true belonging. We use those words interchangeably all the time, but they are precise opposites in this research.
Oh, completely.
Fitting in requires assessing a room and contorting yourself to match whatever expectations are present. It's basically a betrayal of the self. Belonging, on the other hand, requires presenting your authentic, imperfect self to the world.
There's a story in the material that captures this beautifully, isn't there?
Yes, the Nordstrom story. It is so relatable. So a mother is shopping in the shoe department at Nordstrom with her 8-year-old daughter.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right. And a pop song comes on the store speakers. The daughter, completely uninhibited, starts doing this rigid, jerky, ridiculous robot dance right there in the aisle. But suddenly, the mother notices 3 impeccably dressed, quote-unquote, cool moms staring at them.
Oh, I can picture those stares perfectly. The instant temperature drop in the room.
Right? It's palpable. And they have their equally polished daughters with them, and they're smirking and whispering. And the 8-year-old notices it. She freezes mid-dance, looks at her mom, and her eyes are panicked. She's silently asking, "What do I do? Are we in trouble?" That poor kid. In that microsecond, the mother is faced with a choice. She can roll her eyes, tell her daughter to stop, and betray her child to fit in with these judgmental strangers, or she can choose true belonging. She looks at her daughter and says, "You're missing the scarecrow move," and just starts flailing her arms, joining in the ridiculous dance.
I love that so much.
That is the essence of dropping the 20-ton shield. She abandoned the currency of being cool and in control, and she honored her authentic connection. She chose her inherent worth over the ledger.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered that vulnerability without boundaries is actually not the answer?
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, the Nordstrom story is beautiful specifically because the mother chose her daughter, someone she already had a deep, loving bond with. But the research also offers a stark warning. You cannot share your shame or your deepest vulnerabilities with just anyone. Connection requires action, but it requires deep discernment.
That's very true. You don't just walk up to a stranger and hand them your deepest insecurities.
Right. Let's look at another relatable scenario from the material The Gun for Hire story. A researcher is brought in to speak at a parenting seminar. The crowd is hostile. They feel like they're being forced to be there, and they think she's just gonna lecture them on their flaws.
A tough crowd.
Very. And she completely bombs the presentation. The energy is terrible. She gets defensive. She starts quoting scary statistics to prove she's smart. She trades her authenticity for an attempt to win over a hostile room. And afterward, she runs to her car in an absolute shame spiral.
Oh, the classic shame spiral. Tunnel vision, racing heart, hot face.
Exactly. When you are sitting in your car after a terrible presentation, your first instinct isn't self-compassion, it's panic. Now, if self-worth were purely an inherent baseline that you just tap into, she could sit in the driver's seat, declare herself worthy, and heal. But she doesn't.
No, she has to speak the shame to break its power.
She does, but she can't call just anyone. This is where discernment comes in. If she calls the sympathy robot friend, the one who just gasps and says, "Oh, you poor thing, I feel so bad for you," she just gets pity. Pity makes you feel more isolated. True. It doesn't help at all.
Or if she calls the fixer friend, she gets unsolicited advice. Like, well, next time you should format your slides differently. That completely invalidates the emotional pain. She has to call someone who has earned the right to hear her story.
Someone who really gets it.
Right, someone who can sit in the dark with her and say, "I've been there." That is the worst. True self-worth requires the active boundary setting of choosing who gets to see your vulnerability. It is an architecture you build through relationships, not just a baseline you fall back on.
I completely agree that reaching out is vital and that discernment is key. Shame thrives in secrecy, silence, and judgment. When we sit alone with our failures and we compare our messy, chaotic reality to everyone else's carefully curated highlight reels on social media, shame metastasizes.
It convinces us that we are uniquely broken. It really does. But the fundamental antidote to that shame, before we even pick up the phone to call that trusted friend, is self-compassion.
Okay, but how does that bridge back to inherent worth?
Because self-compassion is the realization of that inherent worth. We have to speak to ourselves with the same gentleness and warmth that we would offer a dear friend.
Well, sure, theoretically.
Think about it. We would never tell a friend who bombed a speech, "You're an idiot, you don't belong here, you're a fraud." We would offer grace. That internal grace has to come first. You cannot hate yourself into a version of yourself you love. You can't beat yourself up as a motivation tool and expect to arrive at genuine self-worth.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. I agree that beating yourself up doesn't work, but I don't buy that self-compassion is purely an internal softening or just giving yourself a mental hug. Let's unpack the mechanics of it.
Okay, let's unpack it.
Dr. Kristen Neff's research shows self-compassion has 3 distinct active components. Yes, there's self-kindness, which you just described, but there's also common humanity and mindfulness.
Walk us through how those work in practice then.
Sure. Common humanity is the active cognitive recognition that suffering and inadequacy are universal human experiences. When we fail, our brain's immediate response is isolation. We think we are the only ones who have ever messed up this badly.
Right. We feel totally alone.
But common humanity short-circuits that panic by reminding the brain that failure is a universal data point, not a unique character flaw. You remind yourself, thousands of people have bombed a presentation. This is just a part of being human.
It takes the spotlight off your individual perceived brokenness.
Exactly. And then there is mindfulness, the balanced approach to negative emotions where you neither suppress them nor exaggerate them. You just observe them, like, I am feeling really embarrassed right now. And importantly, self-compassion does not eliminate accountability. This is where people get tripped up.
Right. They think self-compassion means letting yourself off the hook.
But it doesn't. If a coworker consistently misses a deadline, or if you consistently drop the ball in your own life, compassion does not mean you just excuse the behavior because you want to be kind. It means you respectfully approach the situation and ask, what is getting in the way here?
Holding the standard.
You hold the standard, but you do it without shaming the character. The accountability remains intact. We define our worth by how we navigate those difficult, friction-filled interactions.
You know, I fully agree with you on the necessity of accountability. And I actually think this brings us to one of the most profound nuances in the entire body of research. It bridges our 2 positions perfectly.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, the research shows that the most compassionate people are, counterintuitively, the most boundaried people.
Explain what you mean by that.
They are incredibly clear about what is okay and what is not okay. Because without boundaries, you get resentment. Let's say you agree to bake 3 dozen cupcakes for the school bake sale, even though you are already exhausted. And you just do it because you want the other parents to like you.
Hustling for approval again.
Exactly. What happens? You end up at midnight furiously frosting cupcakes, angry at the school, angry at the parents, and disappointed in yourself. Resentment is an absolute poison to both interpersonal connection and internal self-worth. It destroys the ledger.
It really does. You're keeping score of sacrifices no one asked you to make.
Is actually a mechanism for preserving that core inherent self-worth. When you set a boundary, you are fundamentally saying, my inherent worth matters enough to protect. You are putting the 20-ton shield down and picking up a precise targeted tool.
But hold on, I would argue that setting the boundary creates the baseline. Every single time you enforce a boundary, every time you choose authenticity over people-pleasing, you are laying a brick in the foundation of your identity.
You think it builds the worth?
Yes, you are proving to yourself through action that your needs matter. You aren't just protecting something innate. You are actively forging your worth in the fires of real-world friction. When you look at people who have cultivated true resilience, they aren't just sitting in a state of Zen self-acceptance.
They're doing the work.
Right.
They are reality checking the media they consume so they don't fall into the comparison trap. They are abstaining from numbing behaviors like stress eating or doom scrolling. They are actively holding space for the anxiety of uncertainty. These are muscular daily practices.
But those practices are only sustainable if the underlying premise is true, the premise that you are already enough. Think about it. If you are practicing boundaries purely to become worthy, you haven't actually dropped the shield. You've just replaced the 20-ton shield of perfectionism with a 20-ton shield of rigorous, exhausting self-improvement.
That's a fascinating way to frame it.
The fundamental paradigm shift, the sort of spiritual awakening at the center of this research, is waking up in the morning and saying, no matter what gets done today and how much is left undone, I am enough.
It's a powerful thought. It's going to bed at night thinking, yes, I am imperfect and I am vulnerable and I was afraid today, but that doesn't change the truth that I am also brave and I am worthy of love and belonging. You cannot attach your worth to your productivity or even to your boundary setting. It has to be an unearned birthright.
I hear the beauty in that, truly, yet I can't help but feel that a birthright is invisible until it is enacted. It's like having $1 million in a bank account that you never ever access.
That's an interesting analogy.
What good is theoretical inherent self-worth if you spend your life too terrified to dance in the shoe department or too ashamed to call a friend and admit you need help? The practices of healthy striving, owning our messy stories, and setting firm boundaries are the very actions that bring that worthiness into reality. Without the action, the inherent worth risks just being a platitude.
Well, let's look at where these two perspectives beautifully converge today. We both recognize a shared, profound truth from the material. Shame grows exponentially in the dark.
Yes, absolutely.
It feeds on the silence of our isolation and our internal accounting ledgers. And the simple, courageous words, "me too," hold an immense neurological power to heal.
We both agree that true belonging, whether it's an internal realization of inherent worth or an enacted practice of courage, starts the exact moment the pretending stops.
Yes, we definitely converge on the absolute necessity of vulnerability. Whether you view self-worth as a pre-existing condition that must be uncovered, or a structure that must be built brick by brick, the only way forward is to step into the arena.
You have to risk being seen.
Flaws and all, and to treat our imperfections not as fatal inadequacies to hide, but as the very cracks where the light gets in. It is deeply valuable to look at our relationship with ourselves through these dual lenses, to hold the tension of recognizing our inherent unchangeable value while simultaneously engaging in the active, sometimes incredibly messy practice of self-compassion and boundary setting in the real world. We, of course, leave it to you, the listener, to form your own conclusion.
Indeed. The human experience is far too complex for a single reductive answer. And this material offers endless depths to explore regarding how we connect with others, but most importantly, how we connect with ourselves when the room gets quiet.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final reflective question drawn directly from this profound research. Ask yourself today, what would change in your life if you stopped trying to earn your worth?
Such an important question.
If this conversation spoke to you, if it made you feel a little more understood or hopeful, please subscribe, comment, and share this show with someone in your life who needs to remember that they are already enough. Let's close the ledger. You don't need to balance the accounts anymore. Thank you for listening.